If you play any multiplayer game competitively, then you know the feeling of pure excitement when a new patch note drops with updates to the game. You can expect buffs or nerfs to characters or weapons that hopefully lead to a shakeup in the meta, or increase usage of once bad characters. But whether you play fighting games, MOBAs, or shooters, you know that something is always overpowered and some things just always suck. These games seem impossible to balance, but why? One of the oldest games that is still quite popular is chess. Chess doesn't struggle from a balancing issue since both sides have identical pieces and the pieces all move in patterns that haven't changed for over 1,000 years. But modern games aren't like chess. There are more options of how to play, essentially more pieces to play with, and of course, updates to the game. Since there are so many pieces and moving parts in games, achieving a sense of balance can be a very daunting task. But let me first explain what I mean by balanced. A multiplayer game is considered balanced if every character or weapon is used to some degree. This isn't always what a developer wants, sometimes making characters intentionally bad or weapons weaker on purpose. But in general, you would want for every character or weapon to be viable at the highest level. Some games have clear power imbalances with characters being overpowered, while other characters are completely useless. Developers address this with updates that buff and nerf characters accordingly. This is usually a net positive, but sometimes characters can be overbuffed to the point where they need nerfs, or oppositely, they can be overnerfed and never used again. This happens all the time in every type of game. Every time a new patch comes, it can fix one character while creating a problem in another. But good developers know this and are constantly analyzing data on pick rates and win percentage to get close to that balance. A good example is Smash Ultimate. While nowhere near perfect, it feels like the game director Sakurai is trying to achieve some type of game balance. With tons of different characters topping events, this may be the most balanced Smash game ever. And trust me when I say that some of these Smash games in the past have been broken. I'm looking at you, Brawl Meta Knight. You know what you did. Nowadays, a lot of games strive for longevity. And in order to achieve that longevity, they have to add new content to keep the game's interest alive. Without a player base, there's no one to buy new things, and without revenue, there are no more servers, meaning no more game. So one way to keep a game going is by adding new characters. But new characters can drastically change the way a game is played, and when not introduced correctly, can change the game for the negative. Let's take a game like Overwatch. Overwatch added a new hero every couple of months for a few years, until their most recent hero, Echo. Oh geez, it's been over a year? Yikes. Overwatch has had a difficult couple of years trying to balance their game and went through shifts in metas for a while, but the introduction of one hero nearly broke the game at its core.
I am Brigitte Lindholm, and I will be their shield.
After her introduction, the game had a meta called GOATs for over a year, and had to change their whole gameplay structure to truly eliminate its dominance, now forcing people to use 2 tanks, 2 healers, and 2 damage. What's unbalanced about a dominant meta is that some characters are must-picks, making other characters completely unviable. In team-based games, it does end up leading to some type of balance because both teams just use the same thing, but as a player and a spectator, it gets very repetitive and boring, having to use the same characters over and over again, especially when your roster is so big. Team-based games like Overwatch or Rainbow Six Siege or League of Legends try to work in a rock, paper, scissors format where one character counters another and that character can be countered by another character. However, when the game is not balanced correctly, this rock, paper, scissors matchup feels more like machine gun, paper, scissors. The machine gun usually is gonna win. And that's basically what happened with GOATs. Overwatch hasn't really recovered since, with a sharp decline in their player base, insanely long queue times for anything besides tanks, and now no more heroes being made. Overwatch is just waiting to be taken out back and finished once and for all so that Overwatch 2 can revive it, if it ever comes out. Ironically, after a year since its last hero was released, the game is in a more balanced state than ever. What Overwatch can teach us is that adding heroes to the game, while good for business, may not be healthy for the game in the long run. But other team-based games haven't had as many issues as Overwatch in terms of balance. Games like Rainbow Six Siege or League of Legends wisely chose a ban system for high-level play, allowing for players to strike a character they deem overpowered completely out of the game. Developers can see which characters are banned the most to make balancing decisions from there. The beauty of this type of system is that if a character is deemed overpowered, you won't have to really deal with that character because you just banned them. In my opinion, this is a very good way of trying to balance the game to the player's benefit, giving the players control. Apex Legends used to have a big balance issue, with 3 legends being used over 90% of the time in tournament play: Pathfinder, Wraith, and Wattson. But over the years, they have done a lot of balancing to get to a healthier game state. It's still not perfect, but it is improving, with more and more legends being used at the highest level of play. Except you, Mirage. No one's ever gonna use you, let's be honest. So far, I've talked a lot about individual character-based games, but games like Call of Duty still have their own problems with weapon balance. Some weapons feeling like they have to be used, while others are just completely useless. But just like previous games, Activision has also added updates that change the weapon balance. Although not as successfully, like I don't play much Warzone, but I hear a lot of complaints. My point is, you can just tell when a game is unbalanced when everybody is using the same gun, or the same character. Maybe you're watching a fighting game tournament and everybody is picking the same character. Is it because everybody prefers that character, or is it because that character is objectively the best? It's most likely the latter. Some competitive games unfortunately don't receive updates anymore, and just have to deal with what they have. What is kind of strange is that there happens to be a balance that occurs naturally. What I mean by this is, there may be a dominant couple characters that are used, but because other characters who are not that good are barely seen, people don't understand the matchup or how to counter them. So if you take a game like Super Smash Bros. Melee, which has been dominated by a couple key characters, especially the Spaceys, when a character that was considered low tier and unviable like Pikachu starts picking up steam with a player like Axe, the benefit that he has is that players don't understand the matchup as much. Obviously, over time, this may change, and people may find this matchup a lot easier with more practice. But the point is, the game kind of balances itself in that everybody is prepared for one matchup and unprepared for the lower tier matchups. But in an ideal system, every character is viable in their own way. So while many veterans of older games like Melee or Marvel vs. Capcom 2 love the game as it is, and don't mind that there's a couple characters that are quite dominant, I think we should be happy with the current state games are in, because developers can consistently update the game to make the game as balanced as possible, so that fans of every character can feel like their character has a chance. Unless of course they nerf your character, in which case you're probably going to rage about it. My point is that game balancing is just not easy, and is sure to piss off many fans in the process, but we need it to make the gameplay experience better in general. Without it, you'd see the same characters and weapons used in tournaments forever, and as both a spectator and a player, that's just not what we want. So before you rage tweet at a developer to fix your game or something mean and unconstructive, remember that a lot of them are genuinely trying to make the game better, because game balance is important for the game's health and longevity. It just takes time and patience. Also, Mirage will always suck. Okay, bye! Are you a Mirage main that is personally offended by the statements that I said in this video? Hi, I'm Macro, and I'm here to help you. What better way to show Apex Legends that you think that Mirage needs a buff than to buy new merch? Introducing the Buff Mirage t-shirts. They come in 4 different colors, and they look pretty freaking fly. These shirts will be available until Mirage wins an ALGS. So, forever. I'm not even kidding though, the moment that Mirage wins like a big tournament, I will get rid of these shirts. So click the link in the description down below to buy yourself a Buff Mirage t-shirt. I'm not bamboozling anybody, these are legit, and I think they're pretty cool. I'll catch you later.